Welcome back to Hot Air, the podcast where we take the hottest topics in life, dating, love, and mental health, and we blow them up like a cheap floaty on Fire Island. I'm Josh, your emotional support Leo. It is Leo season, almost, I think. Anyway, I'm your resident red flag collector, and today we are diving headfirst into a topic that sounds romantic, but is actually about as healthy as a vodka Red Bull for breakfast. Which, who has not had a vodka Red Bull for breakfast at one point in their life? So today we're asking, is it love or are you being love bombed? Because if you've ever met someone on Grinder or Tinder, Hinge, Scruff, or in line for overpriced coffee, and within 3 days, they're calling you babe or baby or their future husband and talking about your dogs and your home together and getting engaged, you might just be on the receiving end of a love bomb. We're going to get into my personal story and then how to spot love bombing, how to avoid it, red flags, green flags, all the flags. So let's just get into it. Let's hit it. Okay, so before we get into identifying love bombing and all the psychiatric perspectives and the facts and the research, I think we should start with a little story time. My personal experience with love bombing. I actually recorded this episode, a version of it, months and months ago, and it was so long. And I was just talking a lot of smack about someone who love bombed me. So we're going to condense my love bombing experience down very, very short. We're going to make it itty bitty. So I was dating this guy a few years ago who did not live here in San Diego. He came out of nowhere, but instantly I was like, oh, like he's really into me. I definitely was very interested in him. But in retrospect, I was just getting the fuck love bombed out of me. And now I know, but I was like, I can't be the only one who doesn't know or didn't know at the time what love bombing was. And that's why I'm making this episode, because this would have been very helpful for me to avoid being love bombed and then having to deal with a broken heart shortly after meeting someone who told me that they were going to marry me. So, a few things that happened. Second date we ever had, I met his mother. I went to dinner with his mom. And of course, I was like, well, that's a little odd, but they were both here in San Diego on vacation. So I was like, well, I'm not going to make him ditch his mom. So I'll go on our second date and I'll hang out with his mom. And it was actually a good time. And after that, once he left San Diego, we stayed in touch. We talked every single solitary day. He would text me all the time and he would start using those little cute words like babe or baby, or what else did he say? Like, he said that he could see that he was already falling in love with me, that he wanted me to be a second husband because he was getting divorced. One of the first things that he did that I was like, ooh, like a grand gesture, he sent me these really expensive flowers. I obviously looked up the flower shop and the price of them because I'm a lunatic like that. Over $300. This was 2 weeks after I met him, and the card on it just said, like, "Happy birthday, babe." And I was like, "What is happening?" Before I knew what love bombing was, I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my god, is this it? Is this my person? Is this the love of my life? Is this my bestie?" And, well, spoiler alert, it was not. It did not last. But he kept doing these big gestures. Like, he bought me tickets, second row to Beyonce, and this was, maybe 4 weeks after we had known each other. Those were $1,100 tickets, and he paid for them all. I went to Atlanta and I visited him there where he lived, and we spent the whole weekend with his friends, and just there were so many red flags that we're going to talk about that I could have avoided a lot of the heartache, a lot of the hurt. And if I would have known what love bombing was in the first place, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be making this episode. So just learn from my mistakes. That's really the end of the story. The guy just fucking love bombed the hell out of me. So let's get into part one, what love bombing actually is. We are going to get clinical for a second. So, according to licensed therapists and psychotherapists, love bombing is a form of psychological manipulation in which a person overwhelms another with extreme displays of attention and affection to gain power and control. So, in other words, it's not love, it's emotional fast food, high calorie, low nutrient, addictive, and leaves you feeling like shit after. Psychologists tie love bombing Two, narcissistic abuse cycles, because it sets up a power imbalance. The person being bombed becomes emotionally dependent on the intensity and affirmation, which makes it easier for the love bomber to later pull away, criticize, and manipulate. So basically, it's like that dude who buys you three espresso martinis, tells you you're his soulmate, and then ghosts you for 3 weeks, except worse because it becomes intentional. Part two, the psychology behind love bombing. So, why do people do it in the first place? I'll never be able to wrap my head around it. We'll never understand, but it happens. Therapists say there are three core reasons. First, we have narcissistic traits. They crave validation and control. They use love bombing to hook you in and ensure your attention is focused solely on them. Then we have a fear of abandonment. People with anxious or disorganized attachment styles sometimes love bomb unconsciously. They fear that you're going to leave them, so they intensify the connection to secure it. And I would like to think that most love bombing, I'd like to think this is not intentional, but who am I to say? And lastly, there is a low self worth masked as grandiosity. If someone feels unlovable deep down, they might perform an exaggerated version of love to get the validation they crave. But because it's unsustainable, the cycle inevitably collapses. One psychologist describes it as a tool in the narcissistic arsenal to get someone emotionally invested before they even know who the person actually is. So it's giving, I love bomb because I don't even love myself. Part three, love bombing versus healthy early dating excitement, because sometimes they can feel the same. So here's where it gets messy, because dating is supposed to feel exciting at the beginning. You get those butterflies, you're excited about the future. You should feel the anticipation and connection. Like that's what dating is like, that honeymoon phase. But you got to tell the difference between healthy early romance and love bombing. Let's start with healthy early dating. It's going to feel exciting, but also calm. You're going to get to know each other organically, which takes time. Affection and compliments feel proportionate to the amount of time that you have known each other. And there's no sense of pressure to reciprocate or match intensity. They respect your boundaries and your pace. And now, on the flip side of that, we have love bombing, which feels intense, overwhelming, or like it's moving at lightning speed. They speak in absolutes. You're my soulmate. I've never felt this way about anyone. Like, come on, bro. Insert eye roll here. I'm already getting worked up, having flashbacks. They also make you feel guilty for needing space or time apart. They push you to commit or reciprocate before you're ready. And they might criticize or withdraw affection if you don't match their energy. It's basically just a form of punishment. Part four, the cycle of love bombing. And this is really important because this is how you're going to be able to spot love bombing when it's happening so you can avoid getting fucked over. Therapists describe love bombing as the first step in an abuse cycle. And a lot of people are just like, love bombing, whatever. It is a form of abuse if that person is doing it intentionally. So, the first step, idealization. You are perfect. They say you're the best person they've ever met. The connection feels faded, fated with a T, not faded as in I'm faded, I'm faded. Then there's devaluation. Once you're hooked, they withdraw affection, criticize you, or start picking fights, and you are left confused, wondering what you did wrong. And lastly, they discard or they hoover. Such a random term. They might ghost you completely, which is discarding you, or come back with a similar, smaller love bomb to pull you right back in. That's the hoovering. And yes, hoovering, by the way, is named after vacuum cleaners because, yes, you are being sucked back in like those day old crumbs off a shag rug. Part five, what love bombing feels like. Here's the wild thing, it feels fucking amazing at first. You feel chosen, you feel seen, adored, euphoric, butterflies, honeymoon phase. It feels so good. But your brain is flooded with dopamine and oxytocin, the same chemicals released during sex or eating chocolate. So it's addictive, but soon it will shift into something completely different, which is anxiety if they withdraw, confusion about their hot and cold behavior, guilt or shame if you can't keep up, feeling like you're always chasing that initial high because you kind of are. Dr. Shannon Thomas says that love bombing is not about love. It's about grooming a target to become dependent on an abuser for validation and emotional safety. Part 6: Why love bombing is so common in gay dating. Let's get gay specific for a second because, duh, me. Love bombing thrives in queer dating circles, and here's a few reasons why. As I explained in a previous episode, growing up gay, we tend to be a little bit behind the straight community. So we have delayed adolescence. Many gay men experience their first real relationship later in life, creating a craving for intense validation and belonging. And growing up, we have a lack of healthy role models. We don't get to see healthy, everyday queer relationships. So our blueprint becomes dramatic rom coms or porn fantasies. Then there's hookup culture. With apps normalizing fast physical intimacy, some people feel that they need to match that with fast emotional intimacy to secure someone. There's community trauma, years of shame, rejection, or internalized homophobia that can create attachment wounds that crave intense affirmation. And if you haven't, you should listen to my episode about internalized homophobia. It's quite eye opening. And lastly, there's the scarcity mindset, the idea that there are so few options that can only make people latch on quicker, even to love bombers, even if they don't want to. Sometimes that's just called settling, right? And let's be honest, we've all been on a date where he asked your favorite color and then your favorite wedding venue in the same conversation, where it goes from one extreme to the other, and you think, oh, is this person for real? Are they just really into me? Do they feel this already? Are we connected? No, no, honey. It's love bombing. Part 7: Red flags to watch for. This is the fun part. And if you're dating right now, here is your cheat sheet. Absorb this, take it in, lock it in the back of your mind. Don't fucking forget it. Top red flags of love bombing. 1: They say I love you within days or weeks. That shit takes time. 2: They're talking about marriage, kids, shared finances before exclusivity is even discussed. 3: Wanting to spend every moment of every day and every night together. 4: Showering you with gifts or grand gestures that feel disproportionate to the amount of time you've known each other, like $1,100 Beyonce tickets when you've known someone for 4 weeks. 5: Getting angry or withdrawn if you set boundaries. 6: Criticizing your friends or family in order to isolate you. 7: Making you feel guilty for needing space. And 8, lastly, creating a you and me against the world dynamic very early on. Part 8: Green flags to look for. And it's all about balance. Here is what healthy dating actually looks like. So take these green flags with you too. 1: They match words with actions consistently. 2: They respect your boundaries and your pace. 3: They're curious about you, not just projecting fantasies onto you. 4: They maintain their own life, their own friendships, their own hobbies, and their own habits. I always say we are individuals first before we get into a partnership. 5: They make you feel calm, not anxious. And I also did an episode about how being anxious and being excited feels often very similar and how to distinguish between the two. I forget what number I'm on now, 5 or something. They communicate openly about feelings and intentions. And lastly, they're willing to grow intimacy slowly over time. And that is the key here. Take your time. There's no rush. If it's the right person, they're going to stick around. You don't got to freaking run down the aisle after being together for 3 weeks. And if it feels boring because there's no drama, well, congratulations. You're probably experiencing emotional safety. And that is the goal. Part 9: Therapist insights, the attachment connection. Here's a little attachment theory inside scoop for you. So, according to Dr. Amir Levine, author of Attached, people with anxious or disorganized attachment styles are most susceptible to love bombing. And here is why. Anxious attachers crave reassurance and closeness, which makes them ideal targets. Avoidant attachers often love bomb early to secure a connection, and then they withdraw when intimacy feels threatening. Disorganized attachers oscillate between both. They kind of go back and forth, creating chaotic push and pull dynamics. And I am an anxious attachment human, which is why I am so easily love bombed, which is why I am taking the previously mentioned red and green flags with me everywhere I go. And if you want to know more about attachment styles, you should probably stick around for this week's Hot Flash Minisode, which comes out Thursday, where I'm going to go into all of the attachment styles. Part 10. Why do we fall for love bombers? This is the part that stings a bit. We fall for love bombers because validation feels great. It feels amazing. Our brains are wired to seek praise and belonging. We have trauma bonds that mimic chemistry. If you grew up in chaotic environments, then love bombing is going to feel really familiar. And we also just ignore our gut feelings sometimes because we fear that it's self sabotage or we're scared of being alone. So, although our gut or our conscience or whatever you want to call it is like, something's a bit off here. Sometimes we get scared and we'd rather be in a relationship, even if it's love bombing, instead of being alone. And our culture also romanticizes intensity. Movies, songs, things on TikTok. We can't live without you is the message that we often receive from pop culture. And newsflash, that can't live without you energy is not romantic. It's giving codependency with a dash of emotional instability. Part 11, listener story. I'm loving that I'm getting DMs and people sending me stuff on my website so that I can share their stories and talk for them. I previously asked on a Instagram story about love bombing, and here are a few anonymous, we'll leave them anonymous, a few anonymous little stories or ways that some listeners experienced love bombing. So, listener number 1 said, he told me after our second date that he wanted me to meet his mom. I thought it was sweet until he got mad when I said that I wanted to wait. Hmm, that, that wasn't me. I didn't tell that story. I mean, I'm not the one who is the listener number 1, but I did meet that fucker's mom on the second date, and that, in retrospect, that's weird. All right, listener number 2 said, within a week, he bought us matching bracelets and booked a weekend getaway. The next week, he ghosted me for 3 months. I feel like that is a tale as old as time. Men always be doing that. Listener number 3. He called me his soulmate on day 3. A month later, he blocked me on everything and started dating my friend. Oh, God, it's so messy. If you've been there, you are not alone. Love bombing is psychological manipulation and it is designed to feel irresistible. And we've all experienced it in one way or another, some ways much messier than others. Part 12, how to protect yourself from love bombing. And here is where we get practical. How to avoid love bombing traps. First, slow it down. Do not let their pace override your own and override your comfort levels. Then stay connected to your routine and your friends. Isolation fuels manipulation. Don't ditch your friends for some guy or some girl or some they or some them. Don't be like, oh, well, I had plans with my friends, but I'd rather hang out with this person. You have to keep the people that have known you for the longest, that care about you, keep them around, prioritize them. Also, if you feel like you're being love bombed, ask clarifying questions. Like, why do you feel so strongly this soon? Watch what their response is. That will be very telling. And of course, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. And watch for consistency over intensity. You want to make sure that these people over a period of time are consistent. And then you'll start to learn if they're in it for the right reasons or not. Make sure you also set boundaries early. Healthy people will respect your boundaries. Love bombers will test them, they'll cross them, they'll push them. And lastly, be aware of words that are unbacked by action. Action speaks louder than words. And remember, your group chat sees things that you do not. Listen to your friends when they say, that guy is a little crazy. Part 13, if you realize that you are the love bomber, because we can't just assume that everyone's love bombing us. What if we happen to be doing it to someone else? So, real talk. If you're listening, thinking, wait, I do this. Here is the thing. Love bombing is not always malicious. Sometimes it's driven by insecurity, anxiety, or fear of rejection. And so if you notice yourself rushing emotional intimacy in order to feel safe, or needing reassurance before real trust is even built, or using grand gestures to gain control, you got to shift it. And here's a few steps you can take in order to shift it should you be the love bomber. First, slow down. Try to tolerate the discomfort of uncertainty. Build self worth outside of romantic validation. Work with a therapist to understand your attachment patterns. And practice grounding yourself when you feel the urge to escalate too quickly. Again, we've probably all been guilty of this as well. I am a gift giver. I love doing grand gestures, and I have definitely caught myself doing this way early on. Haven't done it in a very long time. It was when I was much younger. But looking back on it, I can see some ways that I may have potentially love bombed somebody. And let's wrap this up with a few final thoughts from me. So, love bombing isn't love, it's intensity without intimacy. Real love feels safe, calm, and secure, and you build trust over time. Real love respects your autonomy and your pace. It doesn't make you feel like you're on a roller coaster without a seatbelt. That's some final destination shit. If you've been love bombed, forgive yourself. You were targeted because you're human, not because you are weak. You learn from it, you grow, and you protect that big, beautiful heart of yours in the future. That's why I'm doing this episode, because I've learned to protect myself and take things slowly. And so hopefully you can too. And if you're dating right now, may your iced coffee be strong, your boundaries be stronger, and your intuition louder than your trauma. Listen to your intuition. And if you like today's episode, make sure you share it in your group chat because they know everything. You can rate me wherever you're listening: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, all the things. And if you want to know more about dating breakdowns like this, you can let me know. My DMs are open. Head on over to my website or my Instagram or my TikTok at _hotairpod. Unless you are planning to slide in my DMs and love bomb me, then that's an instant block. But perhaps you want to share your love bombing story. Maybe you've love bombed somebody and learned from it. Maybe someone has love bombed you. Maybe somebody took you to Beyonce and sent you $300 flowers after knowing you for 12 seconds. I'd love to know. So stay hot, stay hydrated, and remember, if it seems too good to be true, say it with me. It probably is. And I will see you next Tuesday.